big announcement. We'd love for everyone to not even just help out, but we'll be offering adoration every Wednesday, 1 to 5:30 before the 5:30 p.m. Mass. Once again, that is on Wednesdays, starting at 1 p.m. to 5:30 p.m. But we'd love just for students to have an opportunity to come be with our Lord, to pray, and spend some time in silence, spend some time in prayer. Whatever you do, either journaling, if you like the rosary, if you like reading, or if you just really just want to spend some time with our Lord. We'd love for students to help us out and fill some slots, fill some time. So we will try and come up with like a sign-up sheet so that it can be a little bit more organized, so that we're not having people be there, an hour, 2 hours, over, because we don't want to leave our Lord with nobody else there. And so once again, 1 to 5:30 for our 5:30 p.m. Mass. And then our Mass times are Tuesday, Wednesday at 5:30 p.m., Thursday, Friday at 12:30 p.m. There'll be adoration also offered an hour and a half before with confessions, correct, Father Jason?
Yes, Jake, that's the case for Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Tuesday, there will be Mass at 5:30. It will not be preceded by confessions and adoration the hour before, but that will be the case on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday.
Okay. And then our typical weekly events, we have men's Bible study at 9 p.m. led by Julie Ellis. And so for the time being, we're going to be on Zoom. And then we have Seaton's meets on Tuesday, and Seaton's starts at 9 o'clock? 9 o'clock on Tuesdays. And then we have Greek Bible study that starts at 7:30 p.m. on Tuesdays. And then we have RCA that starts at 6 on Tuesdays, correct? And then Wednesdays we'll have knock 7:30 to 8:30 as long as we're on Zoom. And then if we end up getting off Zoom, we'll go back to our original show up at 7, kind of check everybody in. 7:30 we'll seat everybody, and then around 8:30, 9 o'clock we'll finish up. All right, well, I'll hand it over to Father Mike. He'll talk to us about his hospital ministry and kind of how he found his ministry in the church.
Okay. Thank you. And it's good to be with you guys this evening. To begin, I would like to share a reading from the first chapter of St. John's Gospel. The next day, John was present again with 2 of his disciples, meaning John the Baptist. As he watched Jesus walk by, he said, "Look, there is the Lamb of God." The 2 disciples heard what he said and followed Jesus. When Jesus turned around and noticed them following him, he asked them, "What are you looking for?" And they said to him, "Rabbi," which means teacher, "where do you stay?" "Come and see," he answered. So they went to see where he was lodged and stayed with him that day. It was about 4 in the afternoon. The Gospel of the Lord. O Lord, you invite us to that same call and response. You invite us to come and see your presence as we do adoration, to come and see your presence as we read your word. You begin the call and we respond. Open our eyes, our hearts, and our ears to learn how to follow you and to learn that you are always with us, no matter what the situation is. And we ask your blessing upon our time and our sharing this evening through Jesus Christ, our Lord. Amen. Okay. Bigger than hospital ministry is the call to discipleship. And all the way through life, we are called to be disciples. And to do that means we have to discern. Brother Jason was remembering a discernment session that I did quite a few years ago. And it's nice to know that somebody heard something and still remembers that. We're sharing about our deacon in Jonesboro that learned something that I had forgotten that I taught him. And all those lessons help us to remember that we are always a very public person. We may seem to be doing things privately, but we are doing things and we are representing our Lord. When I was journeying to priesthood, I did not wake up one morning and say, oh, I hear God calling, I'm going to be a priest. In fact, I didn't come to the seminary to be a priest at all. I came to be a brother because I knew that saying Mass and doing all the things that a priest did were just too complicated. And I was never going to learn all that stuff. And in 13 years, life changes. I did learn a few things and can do all those things very well. But there was also other things that I never expected that shaped my life. My first year, I came to the parish in June, and Thanksgiving morning, I said Mass for the parish in Sulphur, Louisiana, and I was focused on going to somebody's house for a huge spread of Thanksgiving stuff, the whole 9 yards. And this old lady came out and said, Father, I need you to come and anoint my husband. Oh, you mean tomorrow? No, today. Today's Thanksgiving. I'll bite my tongue. It's not Thanksgiving for her. It's obviously a very difficult day. Shut up and listen. But she never forgot in all the years that I've known her that I went and was present to her as a Christ person on Thanksgiving morning. And even though I started to complain, I didn't. And she always appreciated and treasured that. And she saw that very much as how Jesus is present in the Gospels. How many times do we read of Jesus telling his disciples, let's go away and pray, and the crowds follow him. And he still shepherds them. He still cares for them. So I can remember being called away from a class when I was in 7th grade. The La Salette missionaries vocation director had come to my school in St. Louis and given a wonderful talk. And then he passed out these little blue cards and invited us, if we want more information, which we thought would be mailed to us, to sign the card. Well, the last period of the day, we all went with him to a special room in the school, and he talked to us a little bit more about vocation and the community. And then he said, tomorrow you guys are off. If you're not doing anything, I could use some workers down at the provincial house, the compound where he lives with a number of about 30 other priests. And you come and work, I'll take you to McDonald's. Now, McDonald's doesn't sound like a big deal in our day, but way back then, in 1967, it was a big deal for a kid in 7th grade to get to go to McDonald's. Our family never did that. But again, it was very much like the gospel that I read, a personal call and an invitation. And over the years, I've done marriage encounter, I've done tech, I've done engaged encounter, done Why Catholic, just all kinds of big programs, but I've never found the programs be the ones that change people. They don't always do that radical change that's talked about. What does change people is a one-on-one encounter with another Christ, and that is us, and that's discipleship. So one of the tools that I've had to work with in the last 13 years is my dog just woke up and is looking for attention. And Polly Girl's a little black Pomeranian. And she and I have done hospital visits together. She's a trained therapy dog. We've done nursing home visits. We've done hospice house visits. She's helped with homilies. And she has made a difference in my ministry and my life. So what discernment and discipleship call us to do on a routine basis is to look at our life. What gifts do I have? What talents do I have that God has given me? I didn't earn them. And how do I give back to God? And how do I share with other people the blessings that God has given to me? It's not about being like Sam or Sarah. It's about being who God has called and gifted me to be. And sometimes that's hard. And when I went through high school, the sisters that taught me, Vatican II happened during my schooling. And the sisters, when they came out of their habits and wore real clothes, and that was quite a shock. Sister Mary has hair, and now it's gray hair, and they have the same experiences and the same joys that we have. When in my parish, St. John the Baptist in St. Louis, we had 4 priests, and every morning we had Mass at 6, 7, and 8. So we always had one priest that was off. But no matter if you celebrated, if you served one of those Masses, you got to go to the rectory, and they had a live-in cook. I've never had a live-in cook. And she would make whatever you wanted for breakfast. And you sat there and read the paper with the priests and talked about the Cardinals game the night before. And these guys were ordinary people. And so I got to know that. And then when I was in theology studying, we always had a lot of practical things to do. And I ran into a lot of old people in the parish that I was at. I think the average age was 70. And it was an area of St. Louis that people moved to after the war and grew old and never moved out of. And now they're in assisted living, or what should be assisted living. And we had this one 7-story, high-rise, elderly apartment complex. It just became that. It was never designed for that. But if you're elderly and you have a walker, what do you need to get out of a 7th floor apartment? An elevator. The elevator was frequently broken. I talked to the owner of the building. I talked to the janitor, and he wouldn't do anything. So I formed a moving company, and I worked with Section 8 housing in Maplewood, Missouri, and got apartments for these people. And we started on Saturdays moving them out. And the apartment owner didn't like that. He was losing money. Well, you could fix the elevator and they could stay. And he called my provincial, the leader of my community, and said, "Hey, this guy's ruining my livelihood. And you want him to be a priest?" "What do you mean he's ruining your livelihood?" "Oh, well, you're not taking care of your livelihood." "Yes, I do want him to be a priest. He's helping people who are in need. And he's trying to right wrongs, and he did it respectfully. He said he talked to you about it." And so I thought, wow, next year I get ordained a priest. What happens? I have to start hearing confessions for at least an hour a week. I'll be doing sick calls to the hospital to do anointings and counseling. I'll be doing Mass every day, doing a homily that's got to be prepared. Mass isn't just being there for the hour it takes on Sunday, but you're there early and stay after. When am I going to do what I'm enjoying in social service ministry? Maybe I'm not called to be a priest. Maybe I want to stay a deacon and be able to do that in the name of the Lord. And so I talked to my spiritual director. I talked to some people in the parish where I was living and working with them. And I talked to my director. And ultimately I talked to my provincial, and he made it pretty easy. No, we put too much money into you, and you got a lot of smarts. You're going to be a priest. That's what we paid to educate you for. Well, when you're 25 and a provincial type person is telling you that, you listen. Probably today I would have argued more, but he had a bigger picture than I do of the needs of the church. And that's what he asked me to do, and that's what I trusted. And so now for 40 years, I've been doing administration. I've been part of the building of 4 church buildings, and I've built parish congregations and staffs and all kinds of different ways of being a priest, and I've enjoyed that. And when I look at those opportunities and see that big picture, I don't know how many of you are familiar with the Broadway play Pippin. And Pippin is Charlemagne's son, and Charlemagne obviously was the great king and emperor that changed the world as a military man. But Pippin was sort of a flighty guy that just liked to say whatever came off the top of his mind, and his dad would be teaching and preparing for a battle, and he'd be flying around, and then he was not interested in military. He was interested in acting and flowers and all kinds of things like that. But he wanted to be free. He didn't want to be tied down. And one of the songs that he sings, and I won't charge you by trying to sing it, I will just share the words, is that rivers belong where they can ramble. A river moves and it flows and it goes places. Eagles belong where they can fly. And like those gifts of God's creation, I've got to be free to do and go wherever I want to go. I can't be stuck in Dad's army, running a corps of 100 guys. I got to be free to do whatever I want, whatever I do it. That's freedom. And then he met a beautiful woman who had a son and fell in love with her and him, and realized he was getting tied down. And he couldn't do that, and he walked away, or ran away, literally. And he went and was wandering and thinking, and he was miserable. It wasn't until he went back to her where he found love and that young boy and tied himself to them that he found peace and joy. And then he sang something very different in the same melody. I'm not a river. I'm not a giant bird. And if I'm never tied to anything, I'll never be free. There's no color that I can have on earth that's not going to fade. And all of our choices, all of our yeses mean a lot of no's. When a couple comes before me and exchange their wedding vows, they're saying no to the single life. They're saying no to focusing on a lot of friends and doing things they like to do before. They're committing themselves to one another. I committed myself to the church. And the challenge for me and a lot of people that I've known within the church is to see it as more of a bigger picture than everybody thinks a priest as chaplain or parish, and that's it. But because I was in a religious community and I became the vocation director and the foreign mission director, I was working with priests in Madagascar who were farmers. I worked with others that were running the dispensaries and social work. And I experienced that in my own life and my own call. So, but it's always been within that framework of priesthood. It's a very big picture, and a lot of things. The priesthood is about being another Christ, and to recognize that and celebrate that and then live that to the best of my ability. But even when I came to be wanting into the priesthood, I still wanted a 50-50 mix, at least, of prayer. I've always enjoyed praying and being in the chapel and being quiet, and I can handle silence. Bishop Taylor called all the priests every month during the pandemic when we were all locked down last spring, and he'd always say, "How are you doing? Are you overwhelmed with this loneliness and not getting out and doing everything?" And I always told him, "Bishop, do you remember where you put me? I'm living with 35 women and got 35 nuns. I've got a congregation. I didn't lose people to celebrate Mass with, people who wanted to sing and worship and were enthusiastic about being there at 6 a.m. And that was a joy. The call to, I was the first pastor in Bentonville at St. Stephen's. And again, I had 11 women on the staff. And that was not something I ever expected. I was planning on going to Madagascar as a missionary. I didn't think I'd be the director and be over here raising money and doing things to promote mission awareness. There's just so much in life that we do not know and we do not anticipate. When I talked to Bishop Taylor about this new ministry of prayer and hospitality here at the cabin that I built 15 years ago, nobody knew about a pandemic. Nobody knew the word COVID. Nobody knew the word virus in the sense that we're finding it dominating our life. But we got to live with it. And we can deny it, we can be miserable, or we can work, as you guys are trying to do, find different ways of being together. The opportunities that you have that I would have never thought of when I was a college kid. And one of the things I got to do frequently was fill in for one of our Lost missionary priests who was the campus minister at Stephen F. Austin in Nacogdoches, Texas. And it was always interesting to be with them. There she comes. Polly, can you say hi? No, I don't want to be up here now. So there was all these opportunities, and we have to look and find and see the presence of God. And so discipleship is not something that happens to me and Father Jason or Deacon Paul as ordained people. Discipleship happens when we get baptized, when we get confirmed in our faith, and we have that call to come and see. When I was working in the hospital, I was talking to a man yesterday who wanted to see me. He hadn't seen me for a while, and I celebrated Mass in Rogers yesterday, and Father, doesn't look like you've changed. What do you mean? Well, you're still wearing colors, you're still got weird stoles, and you tell Father that you don't want to preach, and you're doing this, what? Retire? No, senior priest. Okay, I want to talk to you more about that. And he was telling me, you've always been a little bit different. You've always looked at the church and the world differently. But you've always seemed to be happy with that, even though sometimes you could criticize for it. I said, yeah, and that doesn't always not just roll off, but I think I can't be blind to what I enjoy doing and who I am. And the director of pastoral care, we got a new one 2 years ago, and she did not like this priest who wasn't very formal, who didn't wear black clothing. And she went to the director and said, he's got to change. And I don't have anything that's not black. And I don't intend to spend money on going finding it. And just, well, I don't get that. Well, work with me and you'll learn. I've been doing this for 8 years here and I have a pretty good reputation. And so her director called me in and said, Father, you were pretty rough on Sister. I said, well, Sister wasn't being very respectful. I don't make fun of her white habit. I wouldn't wear that. And he said, well, so what's the deal? I said, well, the deal is this, very simple. If you want to see ministry being done, come walk down hospitals. If you want to see my wardrobe, come to the convent and look at it. I'll show it off. That's not what I want to do. It's not about wearing clothes. It's about being Christ. And we all are different. We're all gifted. And we have responsibility as we take up our call to use our gifts and not waste them, to not be blind to the situations of the world. It's pretty hard not to be blind right now because the grief and the pain of racism is among us, the grief and the pain of isolation. One of the reporters for the Arkansas Catholic called me and asked me, Father, how hard is it with all these people in the hospital, and especially after the big tornado in northeast Arkansas that destroyed them all and destroyed a lot of buildings? It's just got to be overwhelming to have all these people in the hospital. There was only 4 people injured in the tornado because the mall was closed because of the pandemic. So I'm not overwhelmed with patients there. And we hadn't had the run from COVID yet, and we weren't allowed to visit them anyway because they didn't want me bringing COVID back to the convent where there's 8 sisters over 6, well, there's 12 over 65 and 8 over 85. So it was a high risk group and we had to be very careful. So that's all got to be figured out. And that's when I started using Zoom and then our hospital app. And so we say yes to God in so many different ways. And we don't always be what we want. I wanted to go to Madagascar. I got to visit Madagascar, but I never got to minister there. And I didn't want to be vocation director for 3 years. My dad didn't want me to be vocation director. He said, that's got to be the dirtiest job in the church, Michael. And I said, it's tough, but I get to travel. And he said, yeah, but there's no success. This was back in the mid-'80s. And it was hard just to get a speaking place because nobody wanted to listen. Today, we're changing and going back to something healthier, where we look at all the vocations, and you guys have opportunities, and that's wonderful. You can find out more about what it means to stay single. You can find out what it is to be married and witness by loving another person. You can find out what it is to be a priest, a brother, or a sister, and the many different ways of doing that, many different styles of religious life. So take advantage of that and live it and enjoy it. I never imagined being part of so many ministries, and certainly never imagined spending 3 years living in a convent, even though I was very close to the sisters who taught us when I was growing up. But unfortunately, life as a priest is often about administering and managing, and prayer easily gets pushed back to second. And so this year I've asked Bishop Taylor to allow me to put prayer very much first. And I very much appreciate his opportunity to allow me to be a senior priest and to fill in. And one of the things, because I've been used to being on the road, a lot of priests like to be where they're at and keep that same group, and they come in and they change a lot of things to make the Mass and the structure of the parish the way they want it and the way it was close to what they did before. And I think we need to be more, okay, how's things working here and how do I fit into that? And the change comes very slowly. But anyway, it won't bother me now if Father Barnabas calls me and asks if I can help on a Saturday night with his old people's Mass. And Father Jason calls me on a Sunday night to help with the young people's Mass. Well, guess what? That's like what I told Deacon Ricardo when we were talking before. That's two different homilies. I can't talk to you guys about the same thing I would talk to 75, 80-year-olds on the gospel. Two different things. So basically, it's prayer and hospitality that I'm doing now, which I'm looking forward to doing that very much if I can ever get this house finished and set up. And to have the opportunity not just to sit around and do nothing, but to be Christ and also help out where I can. So to summarize all that, I think vocation, whether it's priesthood, religious life, or single life, is a call. And there's always ongoing discernment within that call. And church authority helps us. Our own experience helps us. And so does trusted others that we get together with through groups like this, where we share and get to know one another. And we hear from people, oh, you're good at that. And I didn't feel I was good at that, but it helps me to know, helps me to hear from Father Jason that I said something a long time ago that helped him. And that gives constant encouragement. And we all need that encouragement rather than the negativity that is so much part of our world today. Okay, so I've rambled long enough. And any questions or reflections that you guys would like to throw in? Is whatever's in that cup really good? Grace?
I mean, it's water.
Yeah.
It's good, I guess.
Oh, just water? Okay.
Yeah.
No, Father, what I really appreciate you saying, and I think so often there's a lot of people that it's like what you wear, what you do, and all these things like is what they solely focus on. But as you said, it's being like Christ for them is the biggest key, because that's what will stick. No one will remember what you wore. No one will remember all these things, but it was how you were Christ to them.
Yep. And that's not to say that our dress is not important. When we started the virtual live stream Mass, when I was sharing it from the convent, I encouraged the people at St. Anthony's in Wiener to get up, to get out of bed, to get dressed, to create a church-like atmosphere in their home, to help them know that this is special, this is different than sleeping. But again, those are all aids. They're not the essence. Let me ask you, what is it like being a college? What's it like being a college student in this age? You're doing so much online rather than together.
It makes learning a language a lot harder.
Also makes scheduling things very
I'd
difficult.
really be lost then because I never could do that. Mm-hmm. Do you feel cheated? Or is it just another opportunity that's different? I mean, you go to U of A, it's different. You have different opportunities than if you went to Alabama or something like that. But we always have different opportunities. We have an injury or get sick, it gives us another opportunity.
Father, I'm not gonna lie to you. I think it comes with its benefits and its and its cons in there. I will say that it does reduce transportation time, and for some of us that can be a big, like, you have to leave at this time to get to this class.
Yeah.
Like today, I woke up at 8:32 for my 8:35 class. So that has made me very, very happy. But at the same time, it's very difficult not being able to see your friends in class, not being able to like, hey, how you doing? How's your weekend? You know, this Tuesday would have been like, what'd you do this weekend? Or making that style. So socially, it is more difficult, but I feel that there are those little nuances in there that make it a little easier on some of us. On the long run, obviously, it's much more difficult, but it's just one of those times that I'm going to be tested. We're all going to be tested, and we're going to have to keep our faith in God through this and just trust His plan. Yeah.
Yeah. Very good.
I have a question for you, Father Mike.
Uh-huh.
For kids and for us students in college, what do you recommend for us to do, COVID or not COVID, to help out in different hospitals? Like, what would you say would be something that you would recommend for us students to do?
Okay. I would go to somebody that I know that works there, whether it be priest that goes there as chaplain, or one of the doctors, or you can find an administrator, and find out the best way to help. I mean, we usually think of, the best way to help in the hospital is to go brighten the day of a patient by going into a room where they're ordinarily alone. But maybe there's something to do with changing laundry or changing beds that could be done. And that frees a nurse that's trained to go into special areas to be able to do that. And there's lots of little ways that you can help, or just pushing a cart with magazines around are helping them do little odds and ends like that. So I would find somebody in the hospital that knows and has an understanding of what you would like to do. And you might not get to brighten that person's day that you're thinking of directly, but he or she may get extra time with a nurse that's very helpful to them because you're doing something else that a nurse's time would be taken up with. Like the last, even when we went back into the hospital full blast, I started in July. The other sisters didn't start till the 1st of August. And then of course I left September 1st. The Catholic Hospital Association, who controls everything, and you know how we've got phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3. That phase 1, you're totally locked down. Phase 2, you get the 25% attendance or in a restaurant or in church, and then it can grow to 50% where we are now in phase 2. Well, phase 1 and 2 says that if you're over 65, you should not do sacraments in a hospital, in patient care area. Excuse me, that's what I do. And if I can't do sacraments, I think it's pretty logical that I shouldn't even be doing I shouldn't be in patient care areas. So I had to figure out something else to do. And part of that was make phone calls to patients that I knew were there. Part of it was being around the nurses station, or being around break areas and coffee areas where somebody could just approach me and say, "Oh, Father, you wouldn't believe. And I know you met Susie, and we're just not used to having somebody like Susie around. And she was such a delight in all her pain and suffering. But then she suddenly had a heart attack today, and it's just devastating. And can I talk and just ramble for a few minutes? Yes, you can. So to be present in those ways, which it's a little bit riskier, because when you go into a room, you know somebody's there. If I sit in a lounge area, nobody may come by. I may feel pretty lonely and may feel odd just sitting there. But there's also been so many times when that's turned into a blessing for me or somebody else.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Good question. It's funny because when I went to the seminary in Jefferson City for high school, the first thing they had us do is we went to 4 different work sites in Jefferson City, and I went to a hospital. I had no intention of ever being a hospital chaplain. So, little things guide your path, and you trip and find your way into something you never expected. And ask people how they met their spouse. You get some great stories. It's one of the first questions I ask people when they come and say, Father, I want to get married. And I want to know how they met. And I've had some awesome stories over the 40 years that I've done marriage prep. Some of them are quite hilarious. Some of them are the tradition. Yeah, we were in a bar, or I met online. That one makes me nervous, especially when you're in San Francisco and the other one's in Arkansas. How do you really get to know somebody? So I made them spend weekends together somewhere. Polly's speaking to us.
Let's go over some announcements again. Thank you, Father, again, for talking and sharing your story on hospital ministry and ministry and discernment.
I enjoyed it. I'll be thinking of you guys on future Wednesdays.
Thank you.
And I see Deacon Paul's with us.
Deacon Paul is with us.
Okay, you guys have a good night.
Thank you, Father.
God bless
Thank you,
you.
Father.
Thanks, Father Mike.
Okay.
Thank you. Have a good one.
Very good.
He was sweet.
That was great. Yeah, just to finalize what kind of is going on each week, just so we'd really love just more attendance. We'd really love to give students looking for something an opportunity to be involved, build our community, and ultimately, build our faith community. So just again, kind of just going over what happens each week. On Mondays, we got men's Bible study starting at 9. Tuesdays, we've got RCIA. Talk to your friends. RCIA is a great way to, one, invite your friends into the church. If you know anybody that's really desiring God, or even just desiring something more. And also for just all of us, an opportunity to grow in our faith. RCA goes beyond just, bringing non-Catholics into the church, but it kind of goes over the foundations and goes over a lot of the stuff that a lot of us maybe learned in school or in our own, like grade school formation like programs, or, as I said last week, I went to a private grade school and had a religion class. You get all this theology, and you get all this, stuff about the church. And it's a great way if you're really just desiring to learn more about your faith. It's a great opportunity to do that. And then we have Greek Bible study. You weren't here last week. Grace Clements talked about it's not just for Greek life only she was opening up for any students that just wanted to get involved in like a co-ed Greek Bible study. And then we have Seton's women's group meeting at 9 p.m. They primarily do a lot of small groups, or they have been splitting the small groups. So I'm really trying to get word with, her name is Eliza Fulton. Ask around. There's definitely ways to find out, to contact them if you're interested in, meeting with a bunch of different gals and talking about your faith. And then Wednesdays, like I said, we have knock, and then also Wednesdays we have adoration, 1 to 5:30 for the 5:30 p.m. mass. That's all I got for tonight. Adam, Father Jason, anything you want to share? Julian?
Yeah, I'd just like to share just thanks to everyone for hopping on this evening. No, we had to transition a little bit from going from in person last week in the church to on Zoom this week, but we really appreciate you guys hopping on to the call, and hope you enjoyed listening to Father Mike. And as we go over these next couple weeks, definitely next week we'll do this again through Zoom for our knock night, and then we'll kind of see how we are as far as conditions with the virus and different things going on. So just stay up to date just on our website and social media. Just we'll be constantly giving updates as soon as we have some new information and some different things that we can do things in the most responsible way, but at the same time being able to offer various programming for you guys. So ideally we'd all like to be back in person again, and so we'll keep everyone in the loop with that. But again, thank you guys for joining us tonight.
Well, just the same there. To echo what Adam said, thank you all for being patient with what we're doing, particularly as we went remote, to be responsible and be prepared, as that may be a default option depending on what's going on with the virus. It'd be a terrible shame for us to all be responsible and then kind of screw it up as we all get together too quickly or what have you. Although that sense of that is so needed, that'd be something to reflect on as we're at a distance. Just how we may forget how important it is that we need each other. We need each other for salvation, how deep the sacramental life is, which always involves being close. We can't really do sacraments without that intimacy, and the different ways we can find ways to come together in that manner, and then to reflect on it. Sometimes we learn from the via negativa, meaning the way of the negative, the absence of something. So something to reflect on. But thank you for your patience as we're doing this. That's very important, both with myself, the deacons, campus ministers, student leaders. Those things have been going very well. So I want to thank you for how we're moving in the spirit and listening to the different matters that are presented in front of us. And as we see that all in the light of the Lord, that's been very good. And listen through those things, obviously, that are in the schedule. Most of you already know that. Be involved in those things. If you need anything directly, always get in touch with me, please. And the RCA classes go very well. They're on Tuesday evenings. And as we're remote, and we'll eventually have things where they're recorded and streamed, that's a great way to learn about the faith in a very direct catechetical manner. And obviously, we're getting people acclimated to the church, but it's also good to get people involved and can get you involved in discourses and some of the questions as we go through that. I'd love to have you do that, and then maybe that can spark something that you can learn from that. That's a great medium to have. So thank you all, and Jake, whenever you're ready, I'll be happy to close out in prayer or whatever else you may have.
Yeah, I just have one final thing that came to mind. Something that I'd like to, there's about 20 people left. Thanks again for coming. But also challenge whoever is left. I'm going to come up with a sign-up sheet for each week for knock. One, I'd like to, some of the topics people would like to hear, but also two, I'd like to challenge students to talk about something they're passionate about in the church, talking about, or just give talks. So just a sign-up sheet for each week, and a topic you'd like to talk about or a topic you'd like to be addressed, please know that it will, have to be sent to me, Adam, Father Jason, just so that, everything is sound and secured. But I really would like to challenge students, if there's something that they're passionate about, something that they want their voice to be heard, and that you feel that you get to share, experience or share something that has kept you or really inspires you in the faith. Father Jason, whenever you're ready.
Sure. And let us pray. Father, Son, Holy Spirit, amen. Lord God, give us the grace we need to continue to follow your Son, Jesus. Please help us know of your great love for us, and please help us be transformed into his image so that we can be that for one another and for the world. Please help us to be patient with one another in our mistakes, failings, faults, and sins, that we may show your mercy and loving patience to one another and the rest of the world as well. We pray for those that are struggling right now during this pandemic, both with health or through things with which have caused restrictions. Help us to find ourselves in light of you during this time. Help us to be at harmony, at peace with one another, and merciful during times of unrest. And help us be prepared always for the coming of your Son. We may build your kingdom and be found waiting for you when he comes. We ask all these things through Christ our Lord. Amen. Son, Holy Spirit. Amen.
Thank you, Father Jason.
Thank you. Thanks, guys.
Have a good night, everybody. Thanks for coming.
See you, Adam.
Thanks. Good night.